Emmy Award-winning, Oscar-nominated performance for Richard Carapaz today on Col du Portet, arguably the hardest climb of this year's Tour de France. Stage 17, 178 k's long, flat for 112. Then they do Peyre-Sud, Col de Val-Laurent-Azet, and then the Col du Portet, 16.2 k's at 8.5%. Up to 2,200 meters, a really hard climb. And when we saw the break today, well, actually I didn't see it initially because I had a bad crash today and I was getting patched up, but the break wasn't one that was particularly threatening for the stage. The strongest climber in it probably being Perez for Cofidis or Gordon for AG2R Citroën. Mark Cavendish obviously could have gone with that break to contest the stage win, but he decided not to. He'll wait for tomorrow's stage. And so with that break of 6 riders getting only 8 minutes, and yes, only 8 minutes, it's not that much with how hard this final climb is, and UAE looking a bit more active in chasing today, helped by Arkea Samsic and Israel Startup Nation, who wanted Nairo Quintana and Mike Woods to get as many KOM points as possible in those first climbs. And then we saw Jesper trying to bridge Quintana across with Wout Poels. No Woods there. Pierre Latour today, Bastille Day, had the jersey open, full-on memeing, riding 2 meters in front of Bjerg for UAE, but he got in the highlight pack and I'm talking about it, so I guess mission accomplished. But yes, UAE kept that break in reasonable order, bringing it down to 4 minutes 23 when they're on the second last climb. Perez and Gordon went clear from the rest of the breakaway companions, and Davide Formolo was setting a pretty good pace behind. They gave a bit back on the descent, UAE taking it easy. Perez had a 4-minute gap with 15 k's to go on that final climb, which is nowhere near enough, especially when Brandon McNulty was pulling a monster turn, dropping Enric Mas, Lutsenko, Richie Porte, Geraint Thomas, Sepp Kuss looking like he was under a bit of pressure before Rafael Majka took over with about 12 k's to go, and he mowed into this gap, earning his salary today, Majka, after moving over to UAE to be a domestique for Tadej Pogačar. Perez was up the road, but that gap was now down to 2 minutes, and because this was a better stage, and because I'm feeling sorry for myself, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed these Tour de France recap videos, trying to hit 130k subscribers by the end of the Tour de France. Before Majka did one last dig, and Tadej Pogačar attacked on pretty much like a false flat section, but Kuss was done. He couldn't help Jonas Vingegaard. The best domestique of the day was, well, Castroviejo initially bridging it back for Carapaz, whose distance you can just see in the background. He's bringing Carapaz back on this flatter section. Ben O'Connor and Uran are the other two riders with Tadej Pogačar. Perhaps O'Connor, unlike Kelderman, cost himself a little bit following this move, but I guess he's just trying to see his limits. They bring Carapaz back before Tadej Pogačar attacks again, and Carapaz and Jonas have to close this themselves. Rigoberto Uran can't follow. He'll lose a lot of time today. He did have Sergio Higuita doing a massive job for him, actually. And now we have the trio with 7.5 k's to go. We've been crying out for this. A GC battle with big gaps with them all together, not just one rider solo. And that's what we got today. David Gaudu, after not being able to chase Conrad yesterday, was like mowing into the Tadej Pogačar gap. He's coming good in the third week. But Richard Carapaz wasn't pulling. It was just Jonas Vingegaard and Tadej Pogačar pulling the whole time, and Pogačar didn't need to pull nor attack. I was even thinking, why are you even putting yourself under pressure to maybe lose the stage? He can beat these guys in the sprint. And when you look at the GC standings before the stage, it makes sense for Carapaz to pull because Vingegaard's got a good TT, so does Uran. To get on the podium, Carapaz should pull. Maybe he wasn't feeling too good. Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard weren't fooled. This is what they said to each other during the stage.
He thought Carapaz is bluffing, and I knew it also, so yeah, there was nothing unusual. It's like, this is the tactic in cycling, and then he tried to attack.
He had me a bit fooled in Tour de Suisse, Richard Carapaz. He had me half fooled today, but when El Jaguar de Tulcan attacked, he certainly had better legs than he was letting on with 1,300 meters to go. Pogačar immediately getting to his wheel, now just defending, going for the stage win. Obviously, these two are not really a GC threat to him with like a 6-minute, 5.5-minute lead. And Jonas Vingegaard, who'd been pulling with Pogačar, but aware that Carapaz might do this, obviously left a little bit in the tank, rode his pace. 800 meters to go. The gap was initially 8 seconds. He's bringing it back to 7 seconds. Carapaz sees behind that he's there, digs again. Another question is, has Richard Carapaz gone too early? It's a long climb. It's up to 2,200 meters, 15, 16 Ks at 8.5%. But then again, he'd been sitting on while the others had been attacking, and they hadn't been doing a pedestrian pace. Either UAE with Majka and McNulty had been setting a good pace, but you could see Vingegaard clawing that gap back. He was 1 second ahead of Richard Carapaz Carapaz before this stage on GC. Uran is like 2 minutes back at this stage. Forget about him. Remember, Jonas is going to put a lot of time on paper on Carapaz in the TT, so Carapaz needs to gain a good chunk on him this stage and probably tomorrow if he wants to threaten second place. It's crazy to see that Jonas, who would have been a domestique for Primoz Roglic at this Tour de France if everything had gone accordingly for Jumbo-Visma, riding out of his skin 6 watts per kilo for 50 minutes, just about these guys did. Unbelievable level from the young Dane, and with 220 meters to go, he comes back to Richard Carapaz. He shot his best shot, Carapaz, with the Hollywood performance and then the one attack with 1300 meters to go after the others had been pulling. But at this point, with Pogačar having sat on, Jonas having to bridge back, and Carapaz with that big attack, there could only be one stage winner in the yellow jersey. Tadej Pogačar asserting his dominance again on this Tour de France. After attacking like 6 times today when he didn't even have to, getting his team to pull when they didn't even have to, winning on top of Col du Portet in the yellow jersey. Not maybe the solo photo he wanted, but a dominant victory nonetheless. Vingegaard actually taking a second on the line to Richard Carapaz plus some bonus seconds. Pogačar appearing out of the fog with an unassailable lead on this year's Tour de France. But a really entertaining stage. I enjoyed all the tactics between those guys in the last 8 kilometers. Let me know if you watched it, what you thought of it. Do you approve of Richard Carapaz's move? I just think that's normal tactics in cycling, which is kind of what Tadej Pogačar said afterwards as well. Here's the revised GC results. Vingegaard with 4 seconds on Carapaz. Pogačar, he's far away, obviously. Uran dropping down to 4th, about 1:40 behind Vingegaard and Carapaz, which will be hard to make up. Kelderman 32 seconds behind O'Connor, so the top 5 battles still definitely on between those two. Tomorrow we have another mountaintop finish, not as hard as today, up Luzard-Eden, like 13k, 7.5%, and a shorter 130k stage as well. Let me know who you think is winning that stage, because Pogačar took 40 points with that stage win in the KOM jersey classification. Is he going to go for that stage win tomorrow, take another 40 points, and win 3 jerseys at the Tour de France just like last year? Be keen to hear your thoughts down below, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Like it down below if you did, and hopefully I'll see you with the recap tomorrow. Ciao.